Hello, all you hardcore boxing fans out there. How are you doing? It's Big P here. You know, don't you? You know, because that's why you've joined in. Before I introduce today's guest on his return back into the fold, back into the circle of trust, I just want to say thank you to all you people who have joined our members area below. So thank you very much. And today's video is going to go in the members area because this gentleman here has put a lot of time into this video, so it's just going to be for the super hardcores. Today's guest is, well, he doesn't need no introduction, does he? It's Dale, the voice of pay-per-view boxing, Nicholls, from the Midlands. How are you doing, Dale?
Okay, it's great to be back, mate. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I've heard you might be building up a head of steam today, like Bob Willis, or is it Eddie Hills, tearing down the boundary, 45 paces, the fast bowler from Essex under 19s, but now he's saying it's under 16s. Do we believe anything he says? Oh.
4-0.
3 by way of 2 skills bouts, wasn't it? Eric Guy says.
The boys for the shit.
I know. So, what's on the agenda, Dale, for today? For something different for the super hardcores? What's on the agenda?
Well, anyone that's tuned into the show previously when I've been on will know that my hatred for pay-per-view and the way that it's abused in this country and has been for the past 5 years has now reached new heights. We're now getting Chisora and Parker on pay-per-view. 12 losses combined. They've had 4 pay-per-views in Britain between them on Sky. Neither of them have clocked up a W en route. So we've now got 2 journeymen who are now topping a bill on a Sky box office platform. What a piss take.
I know, yeah. It's give me the ump. Do you feel that the interview that Derek Chisora did last night on IFL, where he said that he's just going to keep going whenever he's got 2 hands and a heartbeat and that he's not stuttering? He says he's not stuttering, Derek Chisora, but do you think he might be a bit punchy?
I just don't know what's going on, to be honest. I mean, Chisora, he's always had perhaps the respect of the hardcore because he's always been willing to take any fight, and he's never shy. He's never been shy to say that, and it's been proved within the ring. He's been over to Germany to fight Vitali. He obviously fought Hay. He's fought White twice. The Can't Man. Chisora, he went over to Bulgaria and fought Pulev, something that White wouldn't do. He's never shied away from a fight, has he? So he's had the respect on that side of things. But the guy's a journeyman. People were saying years ago, after Fury schooled him in the rematch, Chisora's finished now. Don Charles had to beg him to pull him out of that fight at the end of the 10th round. Chisora was shot to pieces then. And now all of a sudden, because he's been carefully matched and he's had a couple of showreel knockouts against, bums like Takam and Spilka, all of a sudden he's a pay-per-view fighter. It's absolutely disgraceful.
What about the Caballel when he got schooled by Caballel in Monaco?
Oh, he stunk the place out.
Eddie Hearn said he would finish then, and Tyson Fury, didn't they? But yet, 18 months down the line, Tyson's saying he's going to have a trilogy with him. I don't get that, mate, do you? Do you think these people just keep going to the well and holding their hands out as a sense of entitlement, Dale? I don't know. What do you think?
You've got to think that David A's got something to do with this. What is in this contract? What is in this contract? What has David A gone? They're all acting now because Bellew and Chisora are mates as well, aren't they? It's too much of a clicky thing. Oh well, we can get Chisora back on pay-per-view because he put up a decent showing against Usyk. He's had some barnstormers against White. He's not won any of them fights, has he? So why does he deserve the top pay-per-view bills? You've got fighters out there who have put their neck and balls on the line for years and years and haven't even had world title shots. And this guy, Chisora, not his fault, but the people around him who just keep wheeling him back out and they're all feeding off him like a leech. Chisora doesn't need the money.
Yeah.
And Parker on pay-per-view again. Fucking Parker.
What do you think about the talk doing the rounds that Eddie Hearn spoke to Higgins, the manager of Parker, and said, "Look, we're not going to be able to do anything with Parker Chisora unless he changes his style." And what do you think about Higgins getting rid of Kevin Barry after all them years? I mean, weren't they supposed to be like father, like son?
Well, didn't he live with him?
Parker and Barry.
Am I right in thinking he lived with him, or was that just for a short period of time? There's too much of this shit going on in there. There's no loyalty in boxing whatsoever. People are jumping ship all over the place. Trainers are getting ditched all over the place. For example, BP Smith, Joe Gallagher, who took him to a world title, got him a shot against Canelo, life-changing money and all that. He's gone. I understand that, every fighter has to sell by a date and they are going to move on, but it shouldn't be stabbing people in the back who blatantly have done everything they can to pave the way for their careers.
Yeah. Do you feel that a lot of trainers nowadays want to get themselves on certain platforms and put themselves in the shop window kind of thing and pal people up, but they've got no CVs? I mean, what trainers are out there now that are getting world champions on their lap?
Well, it's the usual suspects, isn't it now? I mean, the ones that sort of train from scratch. Everyone points to Ben Davison being the classic example, really. He's not been in the sport all too long. He was mocked in Paisley Leisure Centre a few years ago for his corner work when Billy Joe Saunders fought Akavov. Then all of a sudden he pops up with Tyson Fury, who realistically pretty much trains himself. All Ben Davison did was probably write down a bit of a diet plan for him to lose all this weight. And it's this great, Jerry Maguire story or whatever you want to call it. It's this fantastic story. Ben Davison hasn't learned or earned his craft, has he? He's had world champions fall into his lap. He's probably got, in Josh Taylor and previously Tyson Fury, he's had the two best fighters Britain have got at the moment fall into his lap. I'm not going to dig out Jamie Moore all too much because I think he's a great guy. He's worked his way up from the bottom as a fighter, and as a trainer, really. He's a trainer for me that I think deserves a lot more respect. Joe Gallagher as well, multiple world champions, and obviously, you've got Big Earn as well, ain't you, who has to pick up the amateur crop. So how can he not be training world champions?
Yeah. Joe Gallagher's CV, he's got double the champions than anybody else has out of all the trainers from the UK. Double the British, double the world champions. You know what he's done with kids and that. His CV's quite good, isn't it? Really, when you think about it.
Well, you could correct me if I'm wrong here, but is he the only British trainer to win Ring Magazine Trainer of the Year?
Yeah. Did Shane McGuigan win it? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. I mean, it's a fair share. Is it when Frampton beat Santa Cruz in the first fight? I think Frampton won Fighter of the Year that year, didn't they? I don't know if McGuigan won Trainer of the Year. I'd have to check that one out.
I wanted Peter Fury to win it the year Joe won it, but Peter only really had that win with Tyson over Klitschko. But Joe had a bigger body of work, didn't he, that year?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I remember Crawler. I think it was the year that Crawler won the world title, and Quiggett had a good year as well, hadn't he? I think, I remember him absolutely icing Martinez in 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Building up to the Frampton fight, weren't it, that one? So he had a good crop of fighters at that point as well, didn't he? Even on the domestic scene as well. But yeah, it's just the lack of trainers really in Britain at the highest level sometimes. You see a lot of the British fighters seem to jump ship and go abroad a lot later.
Yeah. What do you think to Lawrence Okoli and the talk this morning, now that he's a world champion, regarding Lawrence and Bradus being on pay-per-view on Sky? They've already put the dropping the hints out from Bean and Hearn and Frank Smith. What do you think about that? Do you think all roads lead to pay-per-view and they just want to abuse the fans?
If they can put Chisora Parker on pay-per-view, then Lawrence Okoli in a unification fight on pay-per-view with a decent fight, a couple of fights underneath it. Personally, I actually wouldn't mind that much Okoli being given his opportunity on pay-per-view if it's in a unification fight, because he's earned it.
Yeah.
He's worked from the absolute slums, as it's well documented, being in a fast food chain, working his way through. It's a good story, isn't it? And it sells well. And last night he was absolutely outstanding. I felt like he could have took Blavatsky out whenever he wanted.
Do you think
whenever he decided to put his foot on the gas.
Yeah. Do you think he's changed his style, Dale?
He's come a long way, hasn't he, from the stinkers against Matty Askin being the main one. He's come a hell of a long way since then.
Would you like to see Okoli go to heavyweight?
I think it's a bit early at this stage. I'd like to see him have high level fights at cruiserweight first. It's a different game to going back, 15 years, perhaps when, the likes of David Hay jumped up and did it, but he kind of picked his way through the heavyweight scene because he got the financial backing, hadn't he? So he could afford to sort of avoid the Klitschko's to pick up a belt and then sell his belt. Yeah. And obviously, I don't think any of the British fighters done it, have they? They've won cruiserweight and heavyweight titles. But if you look at the crop at heavyweight now, although it's not necessarily, striking in terms of depth, Usyk hasn't got, Usyk's the greatest cruiserweight I've ever seen. I know obviously you'll point to Holyfield, but he's probably a little bit before my time. So I would say that Usyk's the best cruiserweight I've ever seen, and he's not exactly gone up to heavyweight and tore the scene apart, has he? So I'd rather see Okoli have high-level quality fights down at cruiserweight, unify a few belts, and then make the step up to heavyweight when the time's right. So perhaps in 2 to 3 years' time, when it's likely Tyson will be gone by then, and Joshua perhaps will be coming towards the end, there'll be a bit of an opening for Okoli up there then.
Do you feel that Okoli has overdone it a little bit with the book and the rap song?
I think it's all about, classic Eddie Hearn style. It's all about profile, Cougs. It's all about profile. That's all it is, isn't it?
What about the lyrics to the hook now? Pussy in a spliff and all that. Did you hear that? What all that about? God. Pussy in a spliff? What's that? I've never seen. How do you get the Rizzlers around that?
Fucking embarrassing, really. Absolutely embarrassing.
What, mate?
Absolutely embarrassing.
What I found funny about the Lawrence Okoli video was in the middle of the filming, they've edited in a bit where he's sat in this jewelers, and they've got a selection of watches, and some of them watches on there were the crappiest watches I've ever seen in my life. They look like something out of bubbly machines. I'd be embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed if I'd made an appointment to go buy a watch and they showed me some stuff like that. It was nearly as cringe as Mayweather's watches, but well, we have to give Lawrence Okoli credit because I gave him some stick because he's like an octopus, right? But he looks like his sort of style's changed a bit. Maybe we have to give Shane McGuigan a bit of credit for that. I don't know, but he's been very quiet for lately, Shane McGuigan. But I think we'll be having a Shane McGuigan sermon today at some point from Rob Tebbett, won't we, Rob? Rob Tebbett will be hanging out the back of him. And but all right then. Did you want to say anything about the Joshua pay-per-view that we're on recently?
Well, yeah, I mean, they seem to be pushing forward with this £25 for Joshua pay-per-view price and structure, don't they? Obviously, the one before was the Ruiz rematch. That was 25 quid as well. So they seem to be pushing forward with that being his price standing, which obviously is above the normal £20 that the other pay-per-views are. I thought that was pretty piss poor. I thought the card was pretty shocking. I think the Okoli was in that He was on there as chief support, weren't he, against a bit of a journeyman? But I think it was supposed to be this fight actually, which obviously wouldn't have been a bad chief support at all for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And I think that fell through, didn't it, a few weeks before? I thought that was pretty shocking. Joshua did what he did. He got buzzed multiple times. He couldn't put his foot on the gas again in the middle rounds and had to take rounds off. And then eventually got a 40-odd-year-old bloke out of there. I've always said his power is a bit of a myth for me. He obviously has got power to, put people on their arse, but he's not icing people. He's not on the level of what Wilder, for example, or even Povetkin, who just ices people with one punch. I actually would say that probably Dillian White's a bigger hitter as well than Joshua. I just think it's the speed and volume that sort of gets to the opponents at times. Him against Fury, it ain't happening, is it? It ain't happening.
No. Did you see Bricktop's IFL interview yesterday?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Well,
Bricktop got to say himself?
He said it's not done. Bricktop said, well, it's signed as a 2-fight deal, but other than that, they can't say anything else because there's nothing to report. And that him and Bob Arum were very unhappy with Eddie Hills making this announcement. And then of course, they wheel everybody else out, don't they? Bean, Johnny Nelson, Anna Woolhouse, Matt Macklin. And then who was the last one they wheeled out? I forget, they wheeled somebody else out. Tony Bell, you on TalkSport? He said Joshua's a polarizing figure like Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali in America and in England. But I don't agree with that because in America he's known as the guy who got beat by a fat Mexican who were training on Snickers. So I don't know where they're coming from, but this wheeling out of certain people. Frank Smith came out from Matchroom. Not Frank Smith with the spots, not my mate Frank Smith from Bury. How are you doing, Frank from Bury? It were Frank Smith from Matchroom wheeled out, and he's come in doing 20-minute interviews just to say that, look, it's not all rubbish about, don't believe people saying this and that fight's not going to happen, it's going to happen. But there's a lot of intangibles around this fight. There's the MTK backlash. There's if it happens in Saudi, there'll be a backlash there. There'll be fans from England who can't afford to go there. There's all sorts of things going on behind the scenes, isn't there, with this fight? There's the Usyk-Joyce situation. What do you think to that?
To be honest, I think Usyk he's playing the right game for me. He's playing hardball. He doesn't need to accept this fight, does he? He you know what I mean? He's not even fighting Joyce for the world title. I know they're saying that it's going to be for an interim belt, and the day after Joshua or Fury wins, they'll vacate the belt, so it's effectively for a world title. But Usyk's not going to be earning a slice of the cash against Joe Joyce as what he would against Anthony Joshua. So to be playing hardball like this, he's probably sitting there saying, I want step aside money. I want good step aside money as well, and rightly so. It doesn't strike me as the type of guy who's, I think the Chisora pay-per-view absolutely bombed, didn't it? I think it did absolutely maximum around about 100,000 buys, so he wouldn't have earned massive money off that anyway. I know obviously through the WBSS, but again, I don't think that Usyk's probably gone and earned the money that his talent truly deserves yet. So it's proven in the fact that he's gone up to heavyweight, because he wouldn't be earning any money at all at cruiserweight.
Why do you think they've not released the figures for the Usyk Chisora pay-per-view figures? Normally they're shouting from the hills, aren't they, 2 days later?
They did the same with White against Povetkin, didn't they, as well? And the one in, Fight Camp or whatever it was called last year. And I think that did pretty shocking numbers as well. People are sick of it, aren't they? There's no doubt about it. People are absolutely sick to the back teeth of these substandard pay-per-views. I haven't got a problem with these types of fights being on a pay-per-view platform, but Povetkin, White 2, Chisora, Parker, they should be on the same card.
What do you think to Max Kellerman coming out and saying that Wilder's taking $7 million step aside money to let this fight happen, and then Finkel coming out saying no, that's not true? Do you think that somebody's planted that in Kellerman's ear hole for him to put that out there? Because there's a lot of chess playing and back scuttling, or not back scuttling, whatever they call it. A lot of backtracking, back scuttling. Get that from. But do you feel that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and that we're going to stick to our story, what we said last February, March, that if they announce a fight between Tyson Fury and anybody else other than Wilder, Finkel is going to issue the writ, because they shut down Bricktop's show with Caballel and Tyson, didn't they, December?
They did. And do you know what? It's a porky special, this quote. With this Joshua Fury fight, there is too many noses in the trough.
Noses in the trough, mate. That's my saying, mate. That's what it is, isn't it?
That's why it's all going pear-shaped. There is too many noses in the trough here.
Too many chefs in the kitchen, all spoiling the broth. Do you feel, though, Dale, that all these intangibles, like everybody wants to get paid, don't they? For example, Joyce and Usyk. Joshua don't want to fight Usyk, does he? That's a hard fight for Joshua, isn't it? Right? That's a problem. Why isn't Sam Jones speaking up and saying, look, Eddie, vacate this belt. We want to fight for it. We don't want an interim. And then there's the Wilder situation. He's going to want pain. Usyk and Joyce are going to want pain, aren't they? Or at least Usyk. Do you feel that there's too many people trying to get a little piece of this Joshua Fury Saudi money, and that it could all blow up in the faces? Greed at its worst. Do you think that's what it is?
I don't think Sam Jones is ever going to go on record and start speaking shit against Anthony Joshua already. And he said he's desperate to work with them. Desperate. So he's not going to be going on record suggesting that they should be vacating the belt. At the end of the day, they're not the mandatory challenger. Usyk's the mandatory challenger. Yeah. So they really don't have the right to be calling any shots at all.
Why don't Bricktop force the issue with WBO? I mean, normally he'd be straight all over something like this, wouldn't he?
Well, it'd be interesting if Dubois would have won the fight, wouldn't it? Where would we be now? Would he really be putting his efforts into pushing that one forward?
Yeah, good. That's a good point. That if Dubois would have beat Joyce, Frank would have been screaming it from the top of the mountains, wouldn't he, that we want this belt freeing up. You've got to vacate.
Potentially might have done it as well, because we all know he's got the WBO in his pocket.
Yeah. Do you feel that Dubois had a lot of stick with people saying he quit, and that Joshua hasn't had as much stick as Dubois, and he quit against Ruiz? Or were there two different types of quitting?
Yeah, I think there were two different types. As is well documented, I got picked up by some comments that I seem to put out there by a certain individual within boxing. You know yourself, Porky, who that was. I didn't like the way that Dubois was hung out to dry by the vast majority of boxing media, people within boxing, fighters, trainers. The guy's a young guy. He's got a long career ahead of him. Kell Brook was never slagged off the way that Daniel Dubois was. And it's easy to attack Daniel Dubois not being a matchroom fighter. I didn't like it at all. So I hope that young man has kept in the back of his mind the people who did that to him. And when he eventually moves forward with his career and hopefully reaches the top, he remembers, and he doesn't give those bastards the time of day.
Yeah. Do you feel that Kell Brook never got as much stick because he was protected by Hills and all the gimps from Beanville Island?
Oh yeah, it would have been straight away, wouldn't it? You know, I think thinking back, it's the recurrence of a previous injury against Golovkin when he was a brave soldier going up 2 weights, so he could get away with it on that basis. At the end of the day, Kell Brook did quit. But who am I? Who am I to sit on my arse to start calling a fighter a quitter when it's potential eye damage?
Yeah. Yeah, I see where you're coming from, mate. It's exciting times ahead. This is why we love this sport so much, Matt. All right, then. What did you think to Maxi User's performance? winning a British title on IFL the other night.
Well, winning a British title doesn't get enough credit, does it, these days?
No, I don't know.
You know, a lot of the casuals out there seem to just think, oh, he's British level, but there's nothing wrong with that. Winning a British title is a fantastic achievement. A fantastic achievement. I think I've come on this channel before, and I've said that probably winning a British title in this day and age is harder and probably more prestigious than winning a Commonwealth and even a European, probably in some circumstances. And I know this might sound absolutely outrageous, but it could in some ways be harder to win a British title than a world title.
Yeah.
Because there's that many titles floating around these days. So yeah, well done to Maxi Hughes. Great win.
Okay then. What do you
Can
think?
we talk about last night's scorecards as well, by the way?
Oh, of course you can, yeah.
And Bilham Smith fight, absolute disgrace.
Yeah.
Was it two judges gave him a round? I had him winning was it Dukic or Durich? I had him winning at least 3 rounds. I had him winning at least 3 rounds. This happens all too regular for me. The board of uncontrol is an absolute disgrace. Robert Smith, there is no accountability whatsoever. This happened a few months ago, and I pointed this out. Nathan Gorman against Richard Larter on BT Sport. A nothing fight, completely swept under the carpet. Gorman was given the nod 100 to 90 on 3 scorecards that night. Those scorecards were filled in the moment that the first bell rang in the first round. Larty went in there and he won at least 3 rounds. And I know that people will think, why are you mentioning a fight of that magnitude? But it has to be a consistent level, a consistent basis for me. It's got to be that every away fighter is given a fair shake. Yeah. And this is just not happening, is it? The scorecards over in Britain right now are the worst they've ever been. And there is nothing being done about it. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. It's an ungoverned sport. It's an absolute disgrace. Who's going to conduct an inquiry into this?
I don't know. I don't know where we're heading with scorecards. I'm not saying I've been harsh on these judges and that. Nobody's saying they're taking backhanders because we've got no proof. And if they were, they'd never admit it. It can only be incompetence. If it's incompetence, why don't they get demoted? But what I do want to point out is that when you're in these bubbles, right, there's only only the A stars are going to get called for these bubbles because the shows are few and far between, aren't they now? So the A stars are going to be there. And these A stars, they want to come back a week later, don't they? So do you feel that they have to side with own fighter, though they're not going to get called back?
I don't know where the directive's coming from, but something's got to be going into their eardrums suggesting that it has to be the case.
Do you think that Fat Terry will be judging again on a Sky show?
He's going to pop up sooner or later, isn't he? He's obviously been, gone into hibernation for 6 months, since the Ritson saga. He's going to pop up sooner or later. Ian John Lewis. I used to think Steve Gray was a credible guy, but even he's turned in some stinkers lately. Howard Foster with some shocking stoppage work. They're all at it. There's not one that you can point to that you can shine a light on and say, do you know what? He's the best of a bad bunch there. They're all shocking.
All right then.
Phil Edwards, another one.
Oh?
Phil Edwards.
Yeah. Oh, Phil Edwards. He's a blind man, Phil Edwards. Is that Phil Edwards, the referee from Joshua Parker? Yeah, were he Phil Edwards?
No, that was an Italian guy. I think it was something like Francisco Quattarone, something like that. Oh. He had a shocker that night. I mean, as soon as that bell went and they called the guys to the centre of the ring, I thought, my first thought that night was, who's this guy? Who's this guy? I've never seen him before. And I'm thinking, if I've never seen him before, that's a bad sign, that is, because I watch a lot of boxing. I'd never seen this guy before. I'm thinking, fucking Jesus. This is too big for him, this fight, and it proved to be so as well.
Yeah. What do you think about fighters who are affiliating themselves with Eddie Hearn and not other promoters. For example, Steffi Bulls has put a tweet out. He's saying about Maxi Hughes as a great story and that get the contract ready, Eddie Hearn. Do you feel that Maxi would be put in an awkward position if we were given a contract by Eddie and not other promoters? Let me rephrase the question there. Sorry, I got muddled up. Why isn't Steffi Bull putting tweets out saying, all you promoters out there, you're all on notice. Maxi Hughes coming, so get the contract ready. But why did he have to just tag Eddie Hearn in? Why can't he tag other promoters in? Or is he affiliating himself with one promoter? You know, like Caldwell, Bellew, Dylan White, Dave Allen, all them kind of people. And do you feel that Eddie's loving this with all these so-called managers who just want to work with him and nobody else? Is that a Cold War? Is that a Cold War? Or is it an element of fear, knowing that if they don't work with Eddie, they could be in shark-infested waters working with other people? What do you think?
I agree. I think he's definitely a case of that, isn't he? He's aligning himself in the right position, isn't he? He's aligning himself in the right position. He's palling up all the people where he wants his fighters to be, and slowly but surely, he's sort of going to make a name for himself via the Terry Harper route. People are then going to start using Steffi Bull to get to Eddie Hills.
Yeah.
I've just got someone at my door, mate. I'll be back in about 30 seconds.
Okay, no problems though. Dale, when you watch this back, mate, have a look at yourself on film, mate. That haircut you've got, only thing missing is a little tash there, and we can start calling you Adolf.
I'm back.
Dale, why don't you get rid of beard and just have a small tash?
It's going today, to be honest. It's been like 4 weeks. Yeah.
Your lass can't be happy with that, can she, Dale? That beard.
Okay. No, she started mistaking me for the dog.
Does he keep in your bed, dog?
No, Matt at the side of the bed.
Side of the bed. Oh, go on. Yeah. Women's boxing. Do you feel that everybody wants to sign women now in boxing? For example, Bellew's just signed a couple of women, hasn't he? Steffi Bull's signed another one. Do you feel that they're looking at it as ways to make money, but along the way they're damaging the sport? I mean, let's start with the Ebony Bridges, Shannon Courtney thing. I know you're raging over this.
It's a big fucking slap in the face, isn't it? All the champions of the past, like, you know, Naz, just people who've fought up from
from got workmen in jail. Yeah. Can't you do your DIY, mate?
Oh, not painting now. Can't be doing that. Okay. All the people in the past who've pretty much fought up from the bottom, like, you know, Crawler, Naz, legends of the past, Bruno, who went through everything to get to a world title, and then you're slapping shit on like this on mainstream Sky.
I know. Shannon Courtney and Ebony Bridges, they're opponents that they've been in with.
I mean, Anthony Crawler taking a slab to the head. Darren Barker saying that when he hit the canvas, he clung on to his brother's memory to get up and win his world title. You know, all these stories. Obviously, we've touched on Bruno as well, haven't we? And I'm sure there's many, many more that have happened over the years, isn't there? I mean, Fury going over to Germany, winning world titles. It used to mean something. No, it's an absolute sham, isn't it?
Do we hold the WBA accountable for some of the belts, some of the title shots they're handing out? Or are the WBA, have they gone full on hardcore lately because they suspended a judge? What do you think?
this is the same organizational body that when Golovkin fought Kell Brook, refused to sanction the fight on the grounds that it was unsafe.
Yeah.
Yet Roy Jones Jr. went from middleweight up to heavyweight and won their version of the world heavyweight title. How would you work that one out?
I know. Hypocritical, isn't it, from the WBA and Mr. Gilberto Benzosa? Very hippie. I wonder what Chris Ward thinks about this and a few other pokey regulars, Simon and them. It's I don't know what the answer is with WBA. I think they should just have a clear out and just start afresh. It'd be nice just to have one belt. You know, these sanctioning bodies, the 5 sanctioning bodies, the IBO, WBA, WBC, WBO, IBF. If they could just have one champion and get rid of the interim, the international silver and all that, if they could just have one, I think the sport would have a bit of credibility. And then all the fighters in the top 15 would just have a number and you work your way through, because it's muddling it up, innit, all these belts. Do you feel?
I think it's the absolute dream for all fans, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
One belt, one champion per division. The money's never going to allow for that. The politics are never going to allow for that. So what we've got is we've got 4 main sanctioning bodies that do really need to get together and strip it all down and say, look, we've got too many titles out there as it is. This needs to change. It's got to be, we'll have one belt each and we'll try our best to work together to do more unification fights. It would be good if they could sort of align their ranking policies together as well. But again, it's just a rotten sport and it's an ungoverned sport, as you've pointed out multiple times over the years. It's never going to change. It's only going to get worse, in fact.
Does Kell Brook fight again?
Well, we're hearing that he may have potentially turned down the Eubank fight on the Chisora card.
Yeah.
I think he's probably. I don't think he'll fight again now. However, I think if the Khan fight did present itself, he would fight. He would take that fight.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty much it for Brook.
They can't dig Khan Brook up again, surely, can they, Dale?
Oh, if they're putting Chisora Parker on, then I wouldn't be looking past them to do anything. I mean, they're propping it up with Taylor against Natasha Jonas, didn't they? But why ain't Jonas fighting Terry Harper? Why is she being fed to the undisputed lightweight champion, the greatest, women's boxer ever and all this? Why is she being fed to Katie Taylor? Why isn't she getting the rightful rematch against Terry Harper? Because I think that they're looking down the line and they're thinking Jonas could beat Terry Harper. She probably already beat her the first time. We've got to protect our asset moving forward because Katie Taylor's pretty much coming towards the end. She's probably got 3 or 4 fights max left in her. And Terry Harper's pretty much the face moving forward. So they don't want to risk losing that, do they? And they don't put people in hard fights, matchroom, and they've been notorious for this over the years. They won't put people or proteges or prospects in tough learning fights, and they always get found wanting at the elite level. Women's boxing hasn't got that level of depth that men's boxing has, but true to form over the years, they miss out levels, unlike brick tops fighters. And when they do get to the top elite level, they're always found wanting. How many champions has Hills promoted from debut?
What, that have not been in the Olympic teams, the GB team?
Yeah, because obviously we
I don't know. They had RBI, he wanted Team GB, but that was his dad wanted who did him. Callum Smith, he was in Team GB, but Callum Sowland got him his title shot, didn't he, on the WBSS. Coley, but he's ex-Olympics. Joshua, ex-Olympics. Katie Taylor, ex-Olympics. Cal Yafai, ex-Olympics. Charlie Edwards, is he ex-Olympics? Or did he? Were he at Team GB or one of them? Wasn't he? He was Team GB because I've seen him up there years ago myself. It's easy to have a conveyor belt, isn't it? You know, he's got Boazzi and Akoli coming. Boazzi's probably ready for a title soon. They're from the 2016 batch. He would have had a 2020 batch if it weren't for the pandemic. So, all right then. We'll finish off on Bean and the Sky pundits, Macklin, Nelson, Bellew. You probably saw Bellew's. He's now signed up to a company called OnlyFans, hasn't he? You see that?
For a guy that wanted to disappear off into the sunset, he's not making a very good job of it, is he? And I think as well, I actually think he was a little bit bitter last night as well. I think he was a little bit bitter. But I think if you look, everybody's starting to really realise his piss poor CV throughout his career. And I think
he's a champion.
Akoli will go on to achieve more. Well, he's already achieved more, hasn't he? Because he's a 16-fight novice, as Anthony likes to say. He's a 16-fight novice, and he's already a world champion in what's a difficult division, especially when obviously Anthony also won a vacant belt, didn't he? But fair play. I mean, Makabu's got that belt now, hasn't he? So it was a credible win, but probably his only credible win.
You probably could say that. Yeah, Makabu was probably his best win.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Especially now he's gone on to win the world title as well. But yeah, Bellew, he just can't keep out the limelight, can he? He's not managing fighters. He's on Soccer AM. If he's not on Soccer AM, he's on SAS Who Dares. If he's not on SAS Who Dares, he's all over IFL. If he's not on IFL, he's selling a book. He's doing an autobiography. He's just everywhere, isn't he? Oh dear, he'll be on a Porky billboard soon, won't he?
Don't know what.
A Porky billboard.
Porky billboard, yeah. Mickey Theo against Tony Bellew for all the marbles. What did you think of Ultratech Sports Rose video on Tony Bellew yesterday?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my God.
Ultra blocked me on Twitter quite a while back. So
did it? Why?
I refuse to watch his content now.
Oh, don't be like that, Dale. We blocked
I can't remember what it was about, to be honest. I think it was just a clash of opinions, I think, and yeah, just one of them, innit, really. But I'm used to it.
All right then. Final question then for you, Dale. Who is the biggest arse licker in UK boxing?
Oh, good question. It's got to be David A, I think.
David A.
I think so, yeah.
You think that's because he likes to play both sides of the fence and?
Oh yeah, of course. He changes his opinion all the time, doesn't he? I mean, you know, I remember at the end of the Wilder 2 fights, the first round, he goes, "That's the best Tyson Fury's ever boxed in his career." But all last week, he's been saying that Joshua was going to fucking run through him like a steam train. Do you think that it's because he's thinking, my punditry work, I'm used to working on BT, but I wouldn't mind getting the Sky gig for this fight?
Yeah. Yeah, so you're going to go for David A.
I'm going to go for David A, yeah.
All right then. Well, listen, thank you for coming on, Dale. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's good to be back. I won't leave it 6 months next time.
Well, you keep arranging it, and then you're always bogged down. You're knocking your house about and that. You've got a lot on and that, yeah.
Yeah.
Got you under cosh, your little honey, Dale.
Oh God, constant project after project it is. I've got all the shit behind me as well. I've got to tidy all that
up. I don't know, mate, but you took a lot on. How's new car going? All right.
Yeah, loving it. Just want to sort of give it a good proper blast. I do, you know, get it on the motorway and head up to Doncaster or something.
Have you washed it lately? Because I can't get mine washed.
Yeah, I've got a car chassis, so I usually give it a bit of a hose down, you know, once every week or something.
Good man.
Especially during the winter months, because it picks up all sorts of shit, doesn't it?
What colour is it?
It's called Desert Blue. It is.
Go on, lad, with Desert Blue. Right then. All right then, pal. Well, listen, thanks for coming on, and you have a great Sunday, what's left of it, my friend. Thanks, Dale.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on.
Bye-bye. You like that one, didn't you? Right, first of all, I just want to say thank you very much for liking and subscribing. It means a lot to me, because we're on this journey together, aren't we? So anybody got any ideas for the channel, fire them over to me, porkycorner@mail.com. all right? Shout out to Innovation Alloys and South Yorkshire Packaging, all right? Don't forget to subscribe, keep on trucking.